Article 645 of the National Electrical Code addresses information technology equipment rooms. A common question arises regarding the use of flexible cords in these spaces, specifically in relation to raised floors. Article 400.8 generally prohibits flexible cords from being installed in floors. Article 645 does not provide a specific leniency to override this prohibition. Therefore, flexible cords are generally not permitted to be installed within the floor structure, even in areas governed by Article 645. The typical approach for power distribution in information technology equipment rooms with raised floors involves installing receptacle assemblies outside the raised floor space. These assemblies are often found on the finished side of the raised floor, meaning flush with the top surface, or on the walls or ceiling of the room. Access to these receptacles is achieved through covers or plugs installed in the raised floor tiles. This arrangement allows equipment to be connected to power without violating the restrictions on flexible cords within the floor. Article 645 does permit receptacles to be installed under the floor in certain circumstances as described in 645.5d2. This allowance isn't redundant, as it addresses specific scenarios where underfloor receptacles are necessary. While most installations favor locating receptacles outside the raised floor space, there are situations where this isn't practical. For instance, in a large room, placing receptacles under the floor near the center might be necessary to minimize the length of cords running across the floor. This reduces tripping hazards and improves overall safety. It's crucial to remember that even when receptacles are installed under the floor according to 645.5d2, the restrictions on flexible cords still apply. The allowance for underfloor receptacles does not imply an allowance for running flexible cords within the floor structure to reach those receptacles. To summarize, firstly, flexible cords are generally not permitted to be installed in floors, even in information technology equipment rooms governed by Article 645. Secondly, receptacle assemblies are typically installed outside the raised floor space for convenient access. Thirdly, Article 645 does permit underfloor receptacles in specific situations, but this doesn't override the restrictions on flexible cords. The NEC provides specific requirements for wiring methods within raised floors. These requirements ensure safety and prevent damage to wiring due to factors like heat, moisture, and physical stress. Section 645.5e covers the types of wiring methods permitted under raised floors. These typically include rigid metal conduit, intermediate metal conduit, electrical metallic tubing, rigid non-metallic conduit, surface metal raceway with metal cover, flexible metal conduit, flexible metallic tubing, and liquid-type flexible metal conduit. These wiring methods must be properly installed and supported to maintain their integrity. The requirements for grounding and bonding in information technology equipment rooms are also critical. Proper grounding and bonding minimizes the risk of electrical shock and ensures the reliable operation of equipment. Section 645.16 details the grounding requirements for information technology equipment. This section emphasizes the need for a dedicated equipment grounding conductor to be run with the circuit conductors. This conductor must be sized appropriately to handle potential fault currents. Additionally, the metal framework of the raised floor must be bonded to the equipment grounding system to provide a low impedance path for fault currents. Overcurrent protection is another essential aspect of electrical safety in information technology equipment rooms. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to protect wiring and equipment from overloads and short circuits. Section 645.6 addresses the requirements for overcurrent protection. This section specifies that each branch circuit supplying information technology equipment must be protected by an overcurrent device sized according to the ampacity of the conductors. It also requires that the overcurrent devices be readily accessible for maintenance and inspection. The NEC also addresses the issue of disconnecting means for information technology equipment. A disconnecting means is a device that can be used to energize the equipment for maintenance or in case of an emergency. Section 645.10 requires that a disconnecting means be provided for each unit of information technology equipment. This disconnecting means must be readily accessible and clearly labeled to indicate the equipment it controls. In addition to the individual disconnecting means, a disconnecting means must be provided to disconnect all electronic equipment in the room. Proper labeling of circuits and equipment is essential for safety and ease of maintenance. The NEC requires that all circuits and equipment be clearly labeled to identify their purpose and function. Section 645.17 specifies the labeling requirements for information technology equipment rooms. This section requires that all circuits supplying information technology equipment be labeled with the equipment they serve. It also requires that the disconnecting means for each piece of equipment be clearly labeled. The NEC also addresses the issue of fire suppression systems in information technology equipment rooms. Because of the sensitive nature of electronic equipment, it is important to have a fire suppression system in place to protect the equipment from damage in case of a fire. Section 645.11 provides requirements of fire suppression systems. Proper ventilation and cooling are also essential for the safe and reliable operation of information technology equipment. Electronic equipment generates heat, and if this heat is not properly dissipated, it can lead to equipment failure. Section 645.12 addresses the requirements for ventilation and cooling. This section specifies that the room must be adequately ventilated to prevent the buildup of heat. It also recommends the use of cooling systems such as air conditioners to maintain a consistent temperature in the room. The NEC also addresses the issue of uninterruptible power supplies (UPS) in information technology equipment rooms. UPS systems provide backup power in the event of a power outage. Section 645.13 provides requirements for UPS systems. This section specifies that UPS systems must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. It also requires that UPS systems be properly grounded and bonded. The NEC also addresses the issue of surge protection in information technology equipment rooms. Surge protection devices, SPDs, protect equipment from voltage surges caused by lightning or other electrical disturbances. Section 645.15 provides requirements for surge protection. It is important to ensure that all surge protection devices are properly installed and maintained to provide effective protection. Compliance with Article 645 of the NEC is crucial for ensuring the safety and reliability of electrical systems in information technology equipment rooms. By following the requirements outlined in this article, electrical contractors and engineers can minimize the risk of electrical hazards and ensure the safe operation of sensitive electronic equipment. In summary, understanding Article 645 is essential for anyone involved in the design, installation, or maintenance of electrical systems in information technology equipment rooms. Pay close attention to the restrictions on flexible cords, the requirements for wiring methods, grounding and bonding, overcurrent protection, disconnecting means, labeling, fire suppression systems, ventilation and cooling, uninterruptible power supplies, and surge protection. By adhering to these requirements, you can ensure the safety and reliability of electrical systems in these critical environments. Remember that flexible cords are typically prohibited within the floor structure itself. Receptacles can be installed under the floor under certain conditions, but this does not change the rules regarding flexible cords. Always consult the latest edition of the National Electrical Code for the most up-to-date requirements. A common misconception is that the allowance for receptacles under the floor automatically permits the use of flexible cords to connect equipment to those receptacles. This is incorrect. The code makes a clear distinction between the location of receptacles and the permissible wiring methods. While receptacles can be located under the floor, the wiring methods used to connect to them must still comply with all applicable requirements, including the restrictions on flexible cords. Another important consideration is the type of equipment being connected to the receptacles. Some equipment may require specialized wiring methods or connections. It is essential to carefully review the manufacturer's instructions and the applicable code requirements to ensure that the equipment is properly installed and connected. The NEC also addresses the issue of abandoned cables in information technology equipment rooms. Abandoned cables are cables that are no longer in use but have not been removed. These cables can pose a fire hazard and can also interfere with airflow. Section 645.2 requires that abandoned cables be removed. Regular inspections and maintenance are essential for ensuring the continued safety and reliability of electrical systems in information technology equipment rooms. Inspections should be performed by qualified personnel and should include a thorough review of all wiring, equipment, and grounding systems. Maintenance should be performed on a regular basis to prevent problems from developing. When planning the layout of receptacles in an information technology equipment room, it is important to consider the location of equipment, the length of cords, and the accessibility of receptacles. Receptacles should be located in areas where they are easily accessible and where cords will not be stretched or damaged. The location of receptacles should also be coordinated with the location of other equipment, such as cabinets and racks. In addition to the NEC, there may be other applicable codes and standards that must be followed. These may include local building codes, fire codes, and industry standards. It is important to be familiar with all applicable codes and standards before beginning any electrical work. When working with electrical systems in information technology equipment rooms, it is essential to follow all safety precautions. This includes wearing appropriate personal protective equipment (PPE), such as gloves and safety glasses. It also includes energizing circuits before working on them and using proper lockout/tagout procedures. The NEC is a complex document, and it can be difficult to understand all of the requirements. If you have any questions or concerns, it is always best to consult with a qualified electrical contractor or engineer. They can provide guidance and ensure that your electrical work is performed safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and standards. The purpose of Article 645 is to provide specific requirements for electrical installations in information technology equipment rooms. These requirements are designed to address the unique hazards and challenges associated with these environments. By following the requirements of Article 645, you can help to ensure the safety and reliability of electrical systems in information technology equipment rooms. One area to be careful of is the potential for cord damage. Flexible cords are more susceptible to damage from abrasion, bending, and other physical stresses than other wiring methods. This is why the code restricts their use in certain applications, such as within floors. When using flexible cords, it is important to protect them from damage and to replace them if they become worn or damaged. Another factor to consider is the ampacity of the flexible cord. The ampacity of a flexible cord is the maximum amount of current that it can safely carry. It is important to choose a flexible cord with an ampacity that is sufficient for the load that it will be serving. The ampacity of a flexible cord is typically marked on the cord's outer jacket. The NEC also addresses the issue of temporary wiring in information technology equipment rooms. Temporary wiring is wiring that is installed for a limited period of time, such as during construction or maintenance. Temporary wiring must meet certain requirements to ensure safety. When installing electrical equipment in information technology equipment rooms, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions. The manufacturer's instructions will provide guidance on how to properly install and connect the equipment. Following the manufacturer's instructions will help to ensure that the equipment operates safely and reliably. The NEC is updated every 3 years, so it is important to stay up to date on the latest requirements. The latest edition of the NEC can be obtained from the National Fire Protection Association, NFPA. Staying up to date on the latest requirements will help you to ensure that your electrical work is performed safely and in compliance with all applicable codes and standards. In closing, remember the fundamental principles of electrical safety and code compliance. By understanding the specific requirements of Article 645 and adhering to best practices, you can create a safe and reliable electrical environment for information technology equipment.